Hello everyone and welcome to another video here on the Cycling Day in Extra channel and another one of the Giro d'Italia, our recap of stage 14. Sorry about a bit of the lull, but we're back, Patrick, Blake and myself. Patrick, what exactly happened on the stage today, stage 14?
Yeah, stage 14 seemed to just be laid out pretty simply for another sprint. Obviously, after Mats Pedersen's victory yesterday, it looked like with less climbing, but a lapped circuit at the end. We kind of dabble into Slovenia throughout the day. We had a very small breakaway of Marciuluzzi, Maestri, Kasper Asgreen, and Clément David. Just a four-man breakaway. They also weren't given that much time, only sort of a minute and a half to 2 minutes by the peloton, which was being led obviously by Visma Bike for Olav Koy and Alpecin de Koenig for Caden Groves. We went to see the rain start to come down, which obviously is not a particularly pleasant thing for the riders to be going in. But the main thing that happened in the day is that there was a big crash. I want to say it was probably about 25 kilometers to go. It was definitely sort of about 30 minutes of racing still to go at this point. We see a crash of quite a few riders. It was happened quite close, like to the front of the peloton as well, in quite a bottleneck as well. It was kind of on some cobbles. Obviously, things were very slippery. I'm not sure how many riders actually went down, but there was a big kind of hold up behind there. So I think definitely Ben Turner went down. Bilbao went down as well. Pedersen went down. Ciccone went down as well. Dan Holer, Vatsek, quite a few of the Lidl Trek guys, basically. That seems to be roughly where the crash happened. Quite, honestly, within like about position 15 to 20 in the peloton. And obviously because of that, we then see a split in the peloton where there's the Visma bike riders. You got Wout van Aert, you got Olav Koy, Groves is still up there as well. A few of the GC riders as well. Del Toro managed to make it to the front. Carapaz made it to the front. Caruso, Bardet, Max Poole, just to name a few. Surprisingly enough, I don't think Roglic actually went down in a crash, which has got to be the biggest miracle of the whole day, to be honest with you. That seemed like a prime Roglic crashing opportunity. But what we see then is Roglic, Ayuso, Tiberi as well. They were all caught behind this. So the breakaway is still going at this point. We've got Asgreen, Marciuluzzi and Maestri versus essentially about 20 people, led largely by Visma Bike, and then Alpecin de Koenig put a guy up there as well. I think Movistar then eventually start contributing because they have Alois Alloa in there. Behind there's Roglic with Pellizzari, Bernal as well. Forgot that Ineos Grenadiers kind of lost out as well in this. And they're all working. There's this small climb on the circuit, so they're absolutely hammering it. Turns out that Tiberi's not even in this group, which is about 30 seconds back from we'll call it the Del Toro group. Tiberi's even further back. I'm not really sure what happened. I'm not sure if he went down or if he was just held up. I think he might have needed a bike change. The fact that he was taking it quite gingerly through a lot of the corners suggests to me that maybe he did go down, because that's kind of what insinuates people to then start, riding very cautiously through corners. So it's absolute chaos all over the road. In the midst of all this, Asgreen pings off the front ahead of Marciuluzzi and Maestri. I think Marciuluzzi actually had a problem himself. Asgreen's going solo. He's probably got about 4 or 5 kilometers left to go. Visma Bike have burnt through Bart Lemon. Then they burn through Wout van Aert. Simon Yates then kind of co-working for his GC time, and also for Olav Koy tries to bring it back, but Asgreen's extending the gap. Alpecin then finally send Edward Plancart to the front to try and bring it back. Movistar working on the front, but it's with like Aina Rubio and stuff, and they're not going to bring back Kasper Asgreen, let's be honest with you. So we then see this stalemate where the group behind can't catch up to Asgreen, which means that Kasper Asgreen takes the win today ahead of Caden Groves, Olav Koy, Alois Alloa, Stefano Aldani, Mika Maestri, Derek G in 7th, another big winner today, Pidcock in 8th, Carapaz in 9th, Honore in 10th. In terms of the GC standings, Del Toro now leads by 1:20 over Simon Yates. Ayuso's in 3rd. He loses 48 seconds today. Carapaz goes up to 4th. Roglic remains in 5th, but again loses 48 seconds. Derek G up to 6th. Caruso up to 7th. Tiberi down to 8th from third. He loses a minute 44. Bernal remains in ninth, and a Rensman rises up to 10th, even though he loses 48 seconds. Ciccone, pretty badly affected. It wasn't looking too likely that he was going to continue. I think he did finish, but he's lost minutes, like probably 10 plus minutes or so. Scott, on such a day designated for the sprinters, the weather seemed to just wreak havoc and has actually caused some of the bigger time splits that we've seen in this whole race, and it's almost completely flat.
Yeah, absolutely crazy stage to say the least. Not really what either of us were expecting, and yeah, it's definitely it's left its mark on the GC, like you said. And what did you make of the whole situation? Do you think, was there a moment where they should have waited? I know there was no Maya Rosa involved in there. So many losing time as well. We'll talk about Ayuso because that's a big loss for him. But try and draw all this disaster. Should there have been probably not race neutralization? It is just racing. So it's kind of like I'm trying to argue the other side, but you don't wait for the top 5 contender in a crash. That's not really an unwritten rule.
Yeah, I don't think they should have waited, because if you follow that logic, where do you draw the line of like, oh, I'm in 12th place in GC, guys. You need to wait for me because I've had a boo-boo. It's like, that doesn't really like add up, to be honest. I think that because the breakaway was still up ahead, and because the crash was caused, the crash wasn't really caused, but it was just a random freak crash, pretty much. I think it's because a lot of people weren't necessarily involved in the crash. I know a lot of people went down. It's just that a lot of people were held up behind it. Like, I don't think Roglic or Ayuso were actually down on the floor. They just got stuck behind it. Because we've seen race neutralizations in the past. I'm thinking especially like a Étoile de Bessèges, where there's been a big crash, lots of people on the floor, and they have neutralized the race because there's essentially not enough medical personnel, where if a subsequent crash happened, they wouldn't have enough people to attend to those people. So I think the only reason it wasn't neutralized for 2 reasons. A, because it was just like fair racing. Like, it just kind of happened and people just kept, Visma Spike were already on the front. They just kept riding. There's no problem with that at all. And yeah, number 2, because I don't think a lot of people were actually injured in the crash. I think it was just that a lot of people were held up.
Winner, Kasper Asgreen, another Dane. Obviously, I'll be happy about that. That's 5 Danish victories, I think, now in this Giro d'Italia. And great win from EF Education Easy Post, adding to the Rich Carapaz win they've had already. So already EF Education Easy Post are having a great time. But yeah, I mean, out of the GC riders, who's really going to be worried about this? It does turn into a GC episode. It's despite being the flat profile, but who's the ones who's lost out the most here, would you say, in the GC?
I think primarily Ciccone. I can't remember exactly where he was at the start of the day. I'm not sure if he was inside the top 10, but he was looking like he got through the TTs and he was climbing really well. So it looked like he was destined to kind of rise up in this last week, let's say. So I'd say that Ciccone is the main one for me. Tiberi as well, falling from 3rd place, where he was actually looking pretty, quite good, actually, I would say. Dropping down to 8th, like, he lost him and Adam Yates lost, a minute 44, like, almost 2 minutes. That's a lot of time to be given up, considering that was, they were on the podium and could essentially play a bit more of a defensive race. Now they need to gain like a minute or so at least. So it's going to be really hard for them to do that. So I think that's a big loss for Tiberi. And you could say honestly, like, Ayuso, actually. Like, okay, yeah, Roglic lost time, but Ayuso, considering the UAE Team Emirates dynamic of Ayuso, was close. So if he was better than Del Toro in this last week, he'd be like, okay, well, you're only 30 seconds behind, you kind of fight for your own thing. But now that he's a minute and 26 behind Del Toro, how does that play into the UAE Team Emirates dynamics? Like, is it Del Toro, because he's got enough of a buffer, is now like the primary leader? And because Ayuso is a minute 26 behind him and doesn't have that big of an advantage over Carapaz or like Roglic, like only a minute, maybe Del Toro gets more leadership hierarchy here.
Yeah, not quite the stage where I thought it would have flipped, but yeah, I mean, they have to go with the strongest card. There can't be emotion here. It needs to Maybe. I mean, you still need to consider having Ayuso up there because Del Toro has never been in a third week as a GC rider or a contender. So that is going to be quite, well, interesting to see how he deals with that. Yeah, he's very young, as we know. Reportedly, there's going to be renegotiations about his contract as well, if he finishes on the podium. So, yeah, there's a lot of incentive for him. I don't think we've ever had a Mexican finish on the Giro d'Italia podium as well. Stage 15 is the first big test, and then that final week is super serious in terms of climbs and stuff. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think Del Toro is the best card to go with, or should they still have that kind of dual leadership between the two of them?
I think they still need to go over dual leadership because Del Toro can just play the defensive game now. Ayuso is still ahead of Roglic by 57 seconds. So you just play the two card strategy and you just have, the people around Ayuso who are in a similar ballpark. You got Yates, Simon Yates, and Carapaz, let's say. Roglic is a little bit further back than Derek G, but I'd say that, you can still use Ayuso here in like a two-pronged strategy to cover moves and to then not work with attacks. Or people who attack and or trying to attack Del Toro if Del Toro's in trouble. I think you got a perfect scenario here where Ayuso can play a defensive role. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he would like. I think he would obviously be liking to try and win the race for himself, but from the UAE Team Emirates team perspective, I think Del Toro, yes, he's unproven, but so was Pogacar in 2019 in the Vuelta when he went to his first Grand Tour and he finished in third place. These guys are going to have their breakthrough performance at some point, and this might be Del Toro's.
Is this where I remind you what you reminded me of, that it's actually his second Grand Tour? He's been to the Vuelta last year. You reminded me of that, so I'm just giving it back to you.
No, yeah. Yeah, you're just returning the favor. I appreciate it. You got to keep us on the straight and narrow.
I mean, well, let's go on to this Melissa bike because I was very impressed by the absolute hammering that they did. While it's been looking like he's picking up form as well, like very close to Mess Pilsen, taking the stage win as we talked about. But I mean, Simon Yates, he's on the virtual podium right now. So that this Melissa bike effect.
Yeah, it's intriguing because I didn't have Yates on my kind of scorecard of podium candidate based on how he's been going this year, but he's had the rather innocuous, just stealthy Giro so far where nothing's gone wrong. He's just kind of avoided catastrophe here and there. I mean, it's okay, he hasn't gained the time that Del Toro did in the gravel stage, but he hasn't just really put that much of a foot wrong. And consequently, he's finished up in second place. It's just okay, fair enough. How much confidence do I have in him in the mountains? I'm still not too sure, to be honest. I still think that, it's hard to say because Roglic has come down enough times where he's saying that he's got pain or Ayuso's got pain in his knee from his crash. So kind of the big two favourites are wounded in some way. Maybe Yates can steal a march here and finish on a Grand Tour podium for the first time since, was it 2019? Was that his last Grand Tour podium?
I think 2021.
Won the Vuelta.
Yeah, I think 2021 with the Egan Bernal victory with him and Caruso.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's been a
imagine if he won the Giro with Del Toro doing a 2018 Yates and completely diving out on the penultimate stage, and then full circle for Simon Yates, who loves this race as well.
Yeah, that is really interesting to see where he might end up now. I don't want to start screaming he's going to finish on the podium or win or whatever, because I still think that the reason why he's where he is isn't necessarily because of pure climbing ability. It's just because he's avoided catastrophe. We'll see how his climbing legs actually are in the next week.
Yeah, what do you make of the final week now? Do you think it's going to absolutely obliterate this top 10 that we have right now? So, well, looking at the top 10, who's kind of someone you're a bit wary about? I mean, Taberi, like you said earlier, he lost a lot of time, 5 places down in the GC. G moving up. I mean, Pidcock is hovering in 11th place, so stage grabbing Pidcock never really happened, but I think they are kind of trying the GC game in some respect.
It's interesting to think about how it's going to go because in theory, UAE team Emirates don't need to do anything, do they? Like, realistically. Although, have they? They haven't had a stage win yet, no? Del Toro hasn't won yet. Ayuso hasn't won. Unless I'm pulling an absolute brain fart. I don't think they've won a stage yet. Essentially, my point being, who's going to pace the mountain stages? Who's going to be keen enough to do that? Because no, Visma bike kind of don't have like a lot of mountain support. So how much pressure can they put on for Simon Yates? If UAE want stage win, they can pace to go get a stage win with a Maya Rosa. That'll be pretty cool. Or with a Yuzo, whatever. Carapaz, like EF might start pacing, yeah, sure. But they don't have like loads of mountain support. I think it honestly kind of depends on Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe. I think it depends on Roglic and how he's feeling. In 5th place, I don't know how satisfied he'd be with that. Honestly, I really don't. I find it hard to read Roglic sometimes, to be honest with you, whether he's invested or not in winning. I have no idea. But I think if anybody wants to really put the pace on, it's going to be Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe and Bahrain Victorious. Because Tiberi's lost time. They've actually got a decent enough team to put some pace on, put the pressure on. But I think that Tiberi's going to be wanting to try and get inside that top 5 again. And I think that Roglic might want to try and get on the podium. And UAE Team Emirates might want to try and get a stage win. But I think those are the ones who I'm looking to really animate for last week.
What about Carapaz? Comes from behind,
yeah,
wins
he
the
will
whole thing.
attack, but just in terms of his team being able to go to the front and setting a hard pace.
True.
Like Steinhauser, Cepeda, you know, it's like that's going to burn out pretty quickly. And then Carapaz is going to need to attack long. I mean, not saying that Carapaz hasn't done that, before. He's already got his stage win. I'm sure he'd love a podium here. So I think if Carapaz is going to win, like get on the podium, it's going to need to be off of like just pure merit, not like team strength.
Well, we might as well finish with because we're in like just before the big mountain stages start. Who's going to win the Giro d'Italia 2025? And we'll come back and laugh at ourselves because this is like tomorrow is the start of the big mountain stages.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I think there have been so many surprises in this Giro so far where I find it really hard to say. Part of me thinks Del Toro has just been avoiding things really well, and he's just been gaining time even if he hasn't won a stage. It would have to take Roglic. Roglic would have to do something monumental to be able to win. But like the tenacity of Carapaz, he'll just attack. But I think like Ayuso, I've got doubts over. I think just because he can play it defensive and he's looked really good, I'm going to go Del Toro. It's kind of boring. I know it's the Maya Rosa, but he's got a 1:20 gap,
None of us said that at the start of the Giro d'Italia.
But I don't know who else. Like, it would just have to take like. I'm looking at the rest of the top 10, and like realistically, it's going to take. It would have to be somebody inside the top 5, I think, to who's going to win it. I think other people are just a little bit too far back.
Do you not think he might overextend himself, like we've seen with Simon Yates, and potentially could get burnt out in one of the really big stages when the bigger, more seasoned riders really put the pressure on? Or do you think UAE Team Emirates are so good as a team that they prepared him exactly how they needed to prepare him because they have such experience. They have so many incredible riders. We talked about their team at the beginning of the Giro, and it was kind of like podium finisher.
Like you say, they've got the experience. Like they're going to know what to do to hold on to this. Honestly, their biggest concern is going to be trying to keep a lid on Ayuso. I think it's hard, isn't it? Because Del Toro, like you say, he's unproven. Who knows what he is or is not capable of? But I think that I have doubted enough youngsters and gone, now there's no way because, they haven't had the experience of the last week. They're going to crack, and they always seem to prove me wrong. I feel like we're in a different age of cycling. I know Simon Yates in 2018, that was like a different era of cycling back then. I feel like people don't really crack that hard nowadays. So I maybe what was like Poggy Codler Laws was the last
Yeah,
time.
I was thinking that as well, but that was
He had
completely
a wrist injury. Like
not there.
he's
Yeah.
camp like his prep was bad.
Yeah.
I feel like people don't really bonk.
I honestly hope, well, the romantic in me wants to see Simon Yates to win the Giro, but I don't think that's going to happen. But just to have the full circle, so he wins the race that he really wanted, and then with a new team. But yeah, realistically, I don't even know. It could be any one of the top five, and that's great. That's absolutely great to be at this point and then not knowing. I mean, not like the Giro last year where we basically knew after stage 2 who's going to win. But anyways, that's basically it for this recap race analysis of stage 14. We'll be back tomorrow for stage 15. Make sure to hit the like button, comment down below as well about everything in the stage, and make sure to check out Patrick's own channel. That will also be in the description, How Do Cycling. But for now, thank you for watching, and we will see you around.